Welcome, dear listeners, to History with Herodotus, where we embark on a journey through the annals of time, unearthing the secrets of our collective past. Today, we delve into one of the most complex and tumultuous chapters in human history, the triangular trade and Atlantic slavery. As we navigate this poignant narrative, let us begin by setting the stage for the earliest history of this phenomenon. In the 15th century, the European age of exploration was in full swing, with nations like Portugal, Spain, and England vying for dominance over the high seas. It was during this period that the seeds of the triangular trade and Atlantic slavery were sown. The year 1441 marked a significant milestone as Portuguese explorer Antonio Fernandes returned from West Africa with a cargo of enslaved Africans, sparking a new era of human exploitation. As we explore the historical context of this period, we find ourselves in the midst of a complex web of relationships between European powers, African kingdoms, and American colonizers. The demand for labor in the Americas, where European colonizers were establishing vast plantations and mines, fueled the transatlantic slave trade. The Portuguese, in particular, played a pivotal role in this narrative, with figures like Prince Henry the Navigator and King Afonso V of Portugal driving the expansion of their nation's maritime empire. One of the most significant events in the early history of the triangular trade and Atlantic slavery was the construction of the Elmina Castle on the coast of present-day Ghana. Completed in 1482, this fortress would go on to become a major hub for the transatlantic slave trade, with thousands of enslaved Africans being forcibly transported across the Atlantic to the Americas. The castle's strategic location allowed the Portuguese to control the flow of trade and commerce in the region, further solidifying their dominance over the slave trade. As we examine the historical context of this period, we encounter key figures who played a crucial role in shaping the course of this narrative. Prince Pedro de Sintra, a Portuguese explorer, was instrumental in establishing trade relations with the Kingdom of Congo, while Diego Gomez, a Spanish conquistador, led an expedition to the West African coast that resulted in the capture of several hundred enslaved Africans. The papal bull issued by Pope Sixtus IV in 1481, granting the Portuguese a monopoly on trade with West Africa, would have far-reaching consequences, effectively excluding other European powers from the region, and paving the way for the Portuguese to establish themselves as the dominant force in the transatlantic slave trade. The early history of the triangular trade and Atlantic slavery is also marked by the emergence of other European powers, such as the Dutch, English, and French, who would eventually challenge Portuguese dominance over the slave trade. However, during this period, the Portuguese remained at the forefront of the transatlantic slave trade, with their fortresses and trading posts along the West African coast, serving as key hubs for the exploitation of enslaved Africans. As we conclude our examination of the precursors and origins of the triangular trade and Atlantic slavery, we find ourselves poised on the threshold of a new era, one that would be marked by unprecedented growth, exploitation, and human suffering. The stage is now set for the next chapter in this story, as we transition to the period of rapid expansion and intensification of the transatlantic slave trade, which would go on to leave an indelible mark on the modern world. Join me, dear listeners, as we embark on this next leg of our journey, navigating the complexities and nuances of one of history's most pivotal and haunting episodes. Welcome back to History with Herodotus, where we continue our journey through the annals of time, exploring one of the most complex and tumultuous chapters in human history, the triangular trade and Atlantic slavery. As we delve deeper into this poignant narrative, let us now examine the period of rapid expansion and intensification of the transatlantic slave trade, which would go on to leave an indelible mark on the modern world. In the 17th and 18th centuries, the demand for labor in the Americas reached unprecedented heights, with European colonizers establishing vast plantations and mines that relied heavily on the exploitation of enslaved Africans. The transatlantic slave trade became a lucrative industry, with millions of people being forcibly transported across the Atlantic to work under brutal conditions. The Portuguese, Dutch, English, and French were among the major players in this trade, each seeking to dominate the market and reap the greatest profits. One of the most significant events during this period was the establishment of the Royal African Company by the English in 1672. This company was granted a monopoly on the English slave trade and played a pivotal role in expanding England's presence in West Africa. The company's fortresses and trading posts along the coast, such as Cape Coast Castle and Elmina Castle, served as key hubs for the transatlantic slave trade. As we explore this period, we encounter key figures who shaped the course of the transatlantic slave trade. For example, King Agaha of Dahomey, a powerful West African kingdom, actively participated in the slave trade, selling thousands of captives to European traders. Meanwhile, European explorers like Jean-Baptiste Labat and William Bosman wrote extensively about the slave trade, providing valuable insights into the inner workings of this complex system. The transatlantic slave trade also had a profound impact on the cultures and societies of the Americas. Enslaved Africans brought with them their own languages, customs, and traditions, which blended with those of European colonizers and indigenous peoples to create unique Creole cultures. The music, art, and literature of the Americas were forever changed by the presence of enslaved Africans, who found ways to express themselves and resist their oppression despite the brutal conditions they faced. As we navigate this complex and tumultuous period, it is essential to remember the words of Olaudah Equiano, a former slave who became a prominent abolitionist. The slave trade is a stain upon our national character and a reproach to our religion. These words serve as a poignant reminder of the moral complexities and contradictions that underpin the transatlantic slave trade. As we conclude our examination of the period of rapid expansion and intensification of the transatlantic slave trade, we find ourselves at the height of this phenomenon's influence and power. Join me, dear listeners, as we embark on this final leg of our journey, reflecting on the profound consequences of one of history's most pivotal and haunting episodes. Welcome back to History with Herodotus, where we conclude our journey through the annals of time, exploring one of the most complex and tumultuous chapters in human history, the triangular trade and Atlantic slavery. As we delve into the period of decline and aftermath, let us examine the efforts to abolish the slave trade, the legacy of slavery in modern times, and the ongoing impact on contemporary society. In the late 18th century, a growing abolitionist movement began to gain momentum, with figures like William Wilberforce, Thomas Clarkson, and Olaudah Equiano leading the charge against the slave trade. The publication of Equiano's autobiography in 1789, which graphically detailed his experiences as a slave, helped to galvanize public opinion against the slave trade. The formation of the Society for Effecting the Abolition of the Slave Trade in 1787 marked a significant milestone in the fight against slavery. As the abolitionist movement gained strength, various European powers began to take steps to curb the slave trade. The Danish-Norwegian kingdom was the first to abolish the slave trade in 1792, followed by Britain's passage of the Slave Trade Act in 1807, which prohibited British subjects from engaging in the slave trade. The French, under Napoleon, also abolished slavery in their colonies in 1794, although this decision was later reversed by Napoleon himself. The decline of the transatlantic slave trade was further accelerated by the Haitian Revolution, which began in 1791 and resulted in the establishment of Haiti as the first independent black nation in the world. The bravery and determination of Haitian revolutionaries like Toussaint Louverture and Jean-Jacques Dessalines served as a powerful inspiration to abolitionists and enslaved people throughout the Americas. As the slave trade declined, many European powers turned their attention to the exploitation of colonized peoples through other means, such as forced labor and colonialism. However, the legacy of slavery continued to shape the modern world in profound ways. The institution of slavery had a lasting impact on the demographics, cultures, and economies of the Americas, with enslaved Africans and their descendants playing a crucial role in shaping the history of the region. Today, the legacy of slavery continues to be felt in contemporary society, from the ongoing struggles for racial justice and equality to the persistence of economic and social disparities between communities of African descent and others. The transatlantic slave trade also had a profound impact on the modern world economy, with many industries, including cotton, sugar, and tobacco, owing their development to the exploitation of enslaved labor. As we reflect on the decline and aftermath of the transatlantic slave trade, it is essential to remember the words of Marcus Garvey, a prominent black nationalist leader. The slave trade was a crime against humanity, and those who perpetrated it must be held accountable. These words serve as a poignant reminder of the need for continued vigilance and activism in the face of ongoing injustices and inequalities. As we conclude our journey through the history of the triangular trade and Atlantic slavery, we are reminded that this complex and tumultuous chapter in human history continues to shape our world today. The legacy of slavery serves as a powerful reminder of the need for empathy, understanding, and collective action in the pursuit of justice and equality for all people. Join me, dear listeners, as we reflect on the profound consequences of one of history's most pivotal and haunting episodes. That's all for today's History with Herodotus. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, remember that to understand the present, we must first understand the past.